Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got some really fascinating material today. It gets right to the heart of strategy, but from a totally different angle.
Yeah, it's all about looking beyond the usual competitive battles.
Exactly. How you stop fighting the same old fights and actually, create something new, a whole new market space.
That's right. We're diving deep into these concepts called red oceans and blue oceans.
Mhm.
We're pulling insights straight from the source material you shared. It gives you this really powerful way to think beyond just beating the competition.
Okay, let's get into it. The material paints this really livid picture, the red ocean.
Mm.
Think about an industry where everyone's just slugging it out,
Yeah.
competing like crazy for the exact same customers.
Yeah, the source uses that image of like a feeding frenzy where the water turns red. A bit dramatic, maybe.
A little, but you get the point, right?
Yeah.
Captures that feeling of fierce competition.
It really does. When everyone's chasing the same slice of the pie, you see profits shrink, products become commodities, just, head-to-head battles.
Our source uses that U.S. wine industry example back around, 2000?
Yeah, that's a great illustration.
Because you had this huge market, right? But it was also just completely saturated. You had Californian wines, imports pouring in.
New wineries popping up everywhere, just tons of choice.
But the demand, it was flat. People weren't suddenly drinking way more wine, even with all these options.
And then you had the distributors and retailers getting bigger, consolidating, squeezing the wineries on price. Classic red ocean stuff.
Intense competition, prices going down, demand stalled out. How do you even survive in that, let alone thrive?
And that's exactly where this blue ocean idea from the material comes in. It's the complete opposite.
Right. Creating new market space. Uncontested space.
You're not fighting the rivals anymore. You're basically making them irrelevant, playing a different game.
So our mission today really is to unpack this material for you. Pull out the key ideas, the tools it offers.
So you can see how companies can, navigate away from that bloody red ocean towards the wide open blue one.
Think of it as your shortcut to getting up to speed on this really powerful strategic idea.
Okay, so let's start right there. What is blue ocean strategy, fundamentally?
Well, the sources are pretty clear that conventional strategy, it's almost all about winning in the red ocean.
Right. Benchmarking your rivals, trying to do a little bit more for a little bit less.
Or just, out-competing them on the same factors everyone else is focused on.
And the material explains why that approach, while, you need it to survive in the red ocean, it's just not enough to actually create new demand or to escape that intense competition trap.
If you're just tweaking things within the existing rules, maybe offering more value for less price on the same old stuff.
You're still stuck in the same crowded playground. You don't break free.
And here's something really interesting, kind of counterintuitive, that the source points out. Even when companies do deep dives into customer research, which you think is key,
Yeah, you need to understand your customers.
but it often just leads them back to doing more of the same thing. Customers tend to ask for, give me a better version of what you already have.
Exactly. They can barely even imagine a market space that doesn't exist yet. Their frame of reference is what's already out there.
So to find a blue ocean, you need a different lens.
And that's where the core concept comes in. Value innovation.
Value innovation. Okay. So not just more value, not just cool new tech innovation, something else.
It's about going after differentiation and low cost at the same time, simultaneously.
Wait, differentiation and low cost.
Okay. It completely breaks that old trade-off thinking in conventional strategy, where you have to choose high value at high cost or low value at low cost.
Value innovation says you can leapfrog that, offer something new and valuable while also stripping out costs.
That feels like it shouldn't work, according to the old rules.
That's the paradigm shift the material is talking about. And it gives you tools to actually do it. The first big one is the strategy canvas.
Ah, the canvas, the visual map, right.
It is. It's both a diagnostic tool and an action framework. You plot out the factors the industry competes on.
And then you map how the main players perform on those factors. You see where everyone's investing, where they're competing.
And critically, what your strategy curve looks like compared to theirs.
And the source warns, drawing that canvas accurately, it can be surprisingly tough.
Why is that?
Well, it forces you to look honestly at the market, but it's hard because, managers often have their own biases, or they only see things from their department's view.
Like, the R&D person thinks tech specs are everything.
While customers might care way more about ease of use or just the price. Getting that consistent buyer-focused view across all the factors, that's the real challenge.
Okay, so the canvas shows you where you are, maybe stuck in the red ocean, looking way too much like your competitors. How do you actually design your way out? to a new curve.
That brings us to the 4 actions framework. This is like the practical engine for rebuilding value for buyers and smashing that value-cost trade-off.
4 actions.
Louis, you systematically challenge all the industry's unspoken rules and assumptions by asking 4 key questions.
Let's hear them.
1. Eliminate. Which factors that the industry just takes for granted should be completely eliminated?
Okay, get rid of stuff.
2. Reduce. Which factors should be reduced well below the industry standard?
So eliminate and reduce sound like they're about cutting costs.
Exactly. They hit your cost structure directly. You stop over-delivering on things customers don't value that much, or things the industry just assumes are essential but maybe aren't.
Got it. What are the other 2?
3. Raise. Which factors should be raised well above the industry standard?
So dialing things up.
And 4. Create. Which factors should be created that the industry has never offered before?
So raise and create are about boosting value, making things better for the buyer.
Precisely. They're focused on differentiating your offering, creating new value, unlocking new demand.
And the material says eliminate and create are especially powerful.
Yeah, because they really push you beyond just competing on the existing factors. They force you to redefine the game, make the old rules irrelevant.
Let's circle back to that yellowtail wine example. The source uses it really effectively for these 4 actions.
It's a perfect illustration. They were facing that brutal U.S. wine market, super competitive.
Right.
But they didn't try to beat the established wineries by being more complex. We're talking about aging or fancy vineyards.
So what do they do using the framework?
Okay, so they eliminated things that intimidated casual drinkers or just added cost. All that complex wine jargon, the focus on aging, traditional expensive ads.
Things non-experts maybe didn't care about anyway.
Exactly. Then they reduced other things, like the complexity of the vineyards they sourced from and the sheer number of wine types they offered. They started with just 2, right? Red and white. Simple.
Makes sense. And raise and create.
They raised factors that made wine less scary and more appealing. Simplicity, making it easy to choose, approachability.
And they created stuff the wine world hadn't really focused on for the mass market. Easy drinkability, that softer, fruitier style, and this whole idea of wine being fun, social, for everyday people, not just snobs.
And look at the result. They could offer it at a low price because they'd cut out so many traditional costs.
But they also offered totally new value approachability fun. They didn't just steal market share from other wines.
No, they pulled in beer drinkers, cocktail drinkers, people who never drank wine because it felt too complicated. They made the pie bigger. They created a blue ocean.
It's such a clear example of how value innovation, using those 4 actions, can just rewrite the rules.
Yeah, the source also mentions the EFS case study, another example where drawing their strategy canvas showed them, hey, we look just like everyone else, we're not focused.
And the 4 actions help them figure out a new, distinct path.
Exactly. It gave them the structure to design something different.
Okay, so the 4 actions help you design the new strategy curve. But where do you even get the ideas? Where do you look for opportunities to eliminate, reduce, raise, create?
Right. The material gives us 6 specific pathways for that. 6 systematic ways to look for blue ocean opportunities.
6 paths. Okay.
And the core idea behind these paths is that you need to look across the boundaries that most companies just accept as fixed. Industry lines, customer groups.
But these boundaries aren't always real.
Often they're just mental constructs. Ways managers have always thought about their business. The 6 paths help you challenge those constructs.
Right. Path 1.
Look across alternative industries.
Alternatives, not direct competitors.
Exactly. Think about what buyers do to achieve the same basic goal, even if they use products or services from totally different industries. The source uses the example of needing, say, 2 hours of me time.
Okay.
You might go to the movies, or get a massage, or just read a book at a cafe. Those are completely different industries, right? Movies, spa, coffee shop.
Yeah, totally.
But for the buyer looking for that 2 hours of indulgence, there are alternatives. Most industries don't think about the trade-offs buyers make between these kinds of alternatives and that space between them. That's often where blue oceans hide.
Wow, okay. That really broadens the idea of who your competition even is. It's not just the other guy selling widgets.
It's anything that solves the same underlying need for the customer.
Have to.
Look across strategic groups within industries. Think about industries that have clear segments, like luxury cars versus economy cars, or full-service hotels versus budget motels.
Okay, different tiers within the same industry.
Right. The path here is to analyze why customers trade up or down between these groups. What makes someone pay more for luxury? What makes someone settle for economy? What are the compromises?
The source uses curves, the fitness chain,
That's
right?
a perfect example. They looked at traditional health clubs versus home exercise. Why did women trade up to a club? Maybe for motivation, the group energy. Why did they trade down to exercising at home? Maybe cost, time, privacy, feeling intimidated.
And curves just mash those together.
Kind of.
Yeah.
They eliminated the things women often disliked about big gyms. All the complex machines, pools, sometimes men being there, mirrors everywhere, long workouts. They reduced the price point way down.
And what did they raise and create?
They raised the motivational aspect, the social connection, and they created this totally new thing, a fast, simple, women-only workout in a comfortable setting. They weren't just another gym. They pulled desirable elements from different groups and alternatives, like home exercise convenience, to create their blue ocean.
That's clever, piecing it together like that. Okay, path 3.
Look across the chain of buyers. Often the person who pays for something isn't the main user. And maybe they're key influencers too.
Like in healthcare.
Exactly. Think pharmaceuticals. Traditionally, the industry focused marketing on doctors, the influencers. But Novo Nordisk, making insulin, shifted focus. They looked at the user, the person with diabetes.
What did that
Well, doctors cared mostly about purity, which is already super high, but patience. They cared about ease of use, convenience, not having to deal with vials and syringes when they were out. Focusing on the patient led to the Novo Pen, the insulin pen device.
so focusing on the user's daily experience opened up innovation beyond just the drug itself.
Right. It created a new market space around delivery and convenience.
Makes sense. Path 4.
Look, across complementary product and service offerings, this is about the total experience. What happens before someone uses your product, what happens during, what happens after, even if those steps seem outside your core business.
Like the movie theater example, the movie is the core, but parking and babysitting are complementary pains.
Exactly. Or the source mentions Phillips kettles boiling water is easy, but dealing with line scale buildup after is a pain. Or Dyson getting rid of vacuum bags, eliminating the cost and annoyance around the core function.
It's looking at the whole user journey.
Yeah. NEI buses did this. They looked beyond just the upfront purchase price for the city. They considered the whole life cycle cost, maintenance, fuel, and they improved the passenger experience too, because happy riders mean more fares for the city. Addressing those complementary aspects created huge value.
Solving the surrounding problems. Path 5.
Look, across functional or emotional appeal, industries tend to lean one way or the other, right? Some are purely functional, like utilities. Others are super emotional, like fashion or entertainment.
Okay.
This path suggests challenging that. Can an emotional industry strip away extras, become simpler, lower cost, more functional? Can a functional industry inject emotion or ease of use or style?
Like iTunes, taking digital files, which are purely functional.
And adding that emotional layer through design, discovery, the feeling of freedom, while also solving functional problems like copyright in a slick way. They turned a functional commodity into something desirable.
Transform that whole space. Okay, last one, path 6.
Look across time. This is about looking ahead, anticipating big external trends, tech, social changes, regulations, and figuring out how they'll change what customers value.
And acting before everyone else catches on.
Exactly. It's not about crystal ball gazing, but identifying trends that are already visible, have momentum, and seem irreversible. Then you figure out, how will this trend change what buyers want or need?
Like seeing mobile data taking off and figuring out what that enables, like iMode or the iPhone did.
Precisely. You use the trend as a lens, then apply the 4 actions framework to see how you can create new value based on where things are headed.
Okay, these 6 paths give you a systematic way to hunt for ideas. But, lots of ideas sound good. How do you know if a potential blue ocean concept is actually viable? Will it actually work?
Great question. That's where the material brings in the strategic sequence. It's a crucial reality check. A 4-step test every blue ocean idea needs to pass.
4 steps, what are they?
Utility, price, cost, and adoption, in that order.
Utility first, makes sense. It's not useful.
Nothing else matters. Does the offering give exceptional utility? Does it remove major roadblocks in the buyer's experience? Across the whole cycle, purchase, delivery, use, maintenance, disposal.
The source mentions the Philips City Eye failure here.
Yeah, a classic example. Cool tech, maybe, but it failed the utility test badly. It was complicated, hard to use, not enough good software. It didn't solve a real customer problem in a compelling way. There's a tool called the Buyer Utility Map to help check this systematically.
Okay, so step 1. Is it exceptionally useful? If yes, step 2. Price.
Is the price right? Is it accessible to the mass of buyers you're targeting? And this isn't just about being cheap, it's about a strategic price.
Meaning?
Meaning a price that looks really compelling compared to the alternatives buyers might consider, not just your direct industry competitors, but those alternatives we talked about from Path 1.
Like Cirque du Soleil pricing itself against a night at the theater, not just against another circuit.
Exactly. You need to figure out the price corridor of the target mass by looking at what people pay for functionally or emotionally similar things, even if they look very different.
Utility, price. What's next? Cost.
Can you actually produce it at a target cost that allows you to profit at that strategic price? This forces you into price minus costing.
Price minus.
Yeah. Instead of cost plus pricing, figuring out your cost, then adding a margin, you start with the strategic price the market will accept, subtract your required profit margin, and that dictates your target cost.
That flips things around, forces cost innovation.
It absolutely does. You might need new processes, new technologies, strategic partnerships like IKEA does with manufacturers, or how SAP partnered on databases to hit that target cost.
Okay, utility, price, cost. Last step, adoption.
Right. What are the hurdles to getting people to actually adopt this new idea? A real blue ocean often challenges the status quo.
Which can scare people.
For sure. Your own employees might resist the change. Your business partners might feel threatened. The general public might be skeptical or misunderstand it. You need to anticipate and address these adoption hurdles proactively.
The source contrasts Merrill Lynch's internal resistance to online trading
with how Netflix really worked to bring employees along during their big shifts. Or think about Monsanto and GMOs, a failure, arguably, to manage public perception and adoption concerns from the start.
And there's a tool, the Blue Ocean Idea Index.
Yeah, it's basically a simple scorecard to see if your idea clears all 4 hurdles: utility, price, cost, adoption. Helps you avoid big, costly bets on ideas that are flawed from the outset, like that CDI.
Okay, so let's say you've got an idea. It passes the BOI index. It looks like a winner, but now you have to actually do it.
Yeah.
Inside a real organization. That sounds hard.
It is. The source identifies 4 big organizational hurdles that often kill great strategies during execution.
What are they?
First, the cognitive hurdle. Getting people, especially those comfortable with the status quo, to even recognize the need for a major change. Second, the resource hurdle. Thinking you don't have the budget or people to pull off something new.
Okay, mindset and money.
Third, the motivational hurdle. Even if people understand the need, how do you get them energized and willing to put in the effort to change? And fourth, the political hurdle. Dealing with internal resistance, often from powerful people or departments who feel threatened by the new direction.
Those sound like strategy killers, all right? How do you get past them?
The material introduces tipping point leadership. The idea is you don't need massive effort or resources applied proportionally everywhere.
You don't need to convince everyone all at once.
No. You focus your energy on factors of disproportionate influence, people, activities, or issues that have a ripple effect across the organization.
How does that work for each hurdle? Like the cognitive one, getting people to see the need?
Forget dry reports and endless presentations. The key is to make people experience the harsh reality. The source calls it riding the electric sewer.
Riding the...
Yeah, it refers to Bill Bratton when he took over the NYC Transit Police and later the NYPD. He made his senior staff directly confront the problems, ride the dirty, unreliable subways, see the broken infrastructure, meet frustrated citizens face to face.
Wow, direct exposure.
A visceral experience. Yeah. Way more powerful than any spreadsheet for breaking through denial. Seeing is believing.
Okay, what about the resource hurdle? Limited funds.
Focus on reallocation. Not just asking for more money. Identify the hot spots areas getting way more resources than their impact justifies, and the cold spots critical areas starve for resources. Yeah. Then you trade.
Horse trading.
Exactly. Bratton traded surplus police cars his transit unit didn't need for better office space from another city agency. It's about using what you have more strategically.
Makes sense. Motivation, getting people fired up.
A huge lever here is fair process. It's about how you execute the strategy. 3 things. Engagement involving people and decisions that affect them. Explanation clearly communicating why decisions are made, even unpopular ones. And expectation clarity, making sure everyone knows the new rules, goals, and standards.
So it's about trust and transparency.
Totally. When people feel the process is fair, even if they don't love the outcome, they're far more likely to commit and cooperate voluntarily. The source contrasts a plant turnaround that used fair process successfully with Merrill Lynch's more top-down approach that met resistance. Making key metrics visible, fishbowl management also helps motivate.
And the final hurdle, politics. The internal resistance.
You need to identify and politically sideline the key naysayers, the powerful blockers. But just as important, you need to identify and empower your allies. And crucially, secure a conciliere.
Conciliere, like in The Godfather.
Sort of. It means a highly respected insider who knows the organization's political landscape inside out. Someone who understands the alliances, the rivalries, who the key influencers and blockers are. Bratton, appointing John Tymony, a respected veteran, as his chief of staff was a classic example. Tymony knew where the political landmines were buried.
So, tipping point leadership and fair process, they're really about the how of making strategy happen, leveraging the human element.
Exactly. They're critical for executing a blue ocean shift quickly and without needing massive upfront resources or consensus. Without tackling these hurdles, the best strategy map stays just that, a map.
Okay, so you've done it, you've overcome the hurdles, launched your blue ocean, you're cruising in uncontested waters.
Yeah.
But competitors aren't just going to sit there forever, right?
Nope. Imitation is pretty much inevitable eventually. If you're successful, others will try to copy you.
So how do you sustain it? How do you keep that blue ocean blue for as long as possible?
Sustainability requires more than just the initial brilliant idea. It requires ongoing strategy alignment.
Alignment of what?
The source talks about 3 core propositions that need to work together and reinforce each other. Your value proposition, the utility and price you offer buyers, your profit proposition, how you make money with your cost structure at that price, and your people proposition, how you motivate the key people, employees, partners, maybe even the public to support and deliver the strategy.
Like 3 legs of a stool, they all have to be strong and balanced.
That's a great way to put it. When your value, profit, and people propositions are tightly aligned around both differentiation and low cost, it creates really strong barriers to imitation. It's hard for a competitor to copy just one piece. They have to replicate the whole integrated system.
Any examples of strong alignment?
Comic relief is mentioned as one, a clear win-win for the performers, the sponsors, the broadcasters, and the donors, all aligned around the goal.
And misalignment, where it falls apart.
Napster is the classic cautionary tale here. Amazing value proposition for users, right? Free music. But the people proposition, terrible. They completely alienated the music labels, the key partners they needed.
Which killed their profit proposition because of the lawsuits.
Exactly. Great idea for users, but fatally misaligned with essential stakeholders.
Contrast that with Apple's iTunes.
Apple nailed the alignment. Value.
Easy access, good user experience, people. They created a win-win with the music labels, offering revenue sharing and copyright protection. Profit. They made money from song sales, and it drove massive sales of iPods.
That alignment created a powerful reinforcing system, hard to compete with.
Very hard. So sustainability isn't just about defending your first blue ocean, it's also about thinking ahead.
Managing a portfolio.
Exactly. The source talks about needing a balance of different types of businesses. Pioneers, these are your current or future blue oceans driving new growth. Migrators, businesses that started as blue oceans but are now attracting competitors, moving towards red. And settlers, your established businesses operating in red oceans, often generating cash.
You need all 3.
For long-term health, yes. As your pioneers inevitably get imitated and become migrators, you need new pioneers in the pipeline to replace them and keep creating new growth curves. Apple comes up again here, doesn't it?
They're often seen as masters of this. Think about their sequence. iMac was a pioneer, then iPod was a massive blue ocean pioneer, then iPhone, then iPad, the App Store. They kept launching new pioneers that redefined markets, even while managing their existing businesses.
And they used red ocean tactics too, like lots of iPod models, to defend their space once it started getting crowded.
Right. Contrast that with, say, Microsoft during a certain period. The source suggests they became heavily reliant on their settlers, Windows, and Office.
Which were hugely profitable.
Hugely.
Yeah.
But they arguably missed launching major new pioneers in areas like search, social media, or even gaming hardware where others created massive blue oceans. That reliance on settlers eventually impacted their overall growth trajectory and maybe even brand excitement despite the profits.
So the message is, even successful blue ocean companies need to manage both red and blue strategies across their whole portfolio.
Absolutely. You need the capability for both exploration, finding blue oceans, and exploitation, managing red oceans effectively at the corporate level.
We've covered a ton: finding, testing, executing, sustaining. But before we wrap up, The source warns about some common red ocean traps, things that keep companies stuck.
Yeah, and probably the biggest trap highlighted is thinking that blue ocean strategy is just about being customer-led in the traditional sense, focusing only on your existing customers.
Hey, hang on. Isn't listening to your customers like strategy 101?
It's absolutely essential for succeeding in the red ocean, for improving your current offerings, for keeping existing customers happy. But if you only listen to current customers,
You end up back where we started, just making incremental improvements.
often, yes, because existing customers are, by definition, already buying within the industry's current boundaries. They're used to the existing value propositions, the existing trade-offs.
So where do the real breakthrough insights for blue oceans come from?
The source argues they often come from studying non-customers.
Non-customers, people who aren't buying from you or from your whole industry.
Exactly. People who refuse the industry's offering, people who use it only minimally out of necessity, or people who have never even considered it. These groups hold the key insights into why the market is limited. What are the pain points? What are the turnoffs? What intimidation factors keep people away?
Why don't people buy?
Analyzing those reasons, looking at the different tiers of non-customers, is where you find the clues to unlock massive, untapped demand.
Like Callaway Golf realizing tons of people wanted to golf but found it too hard, so they designed clubs for those non-golfers.
Perfect example.
Good.
Or JCDecaux putting ads on bus shelters, reaching people waiting downtown, an audience traditional billboards weren't really serving. They looked at the non-consumers of existing outdoor ads.
So focusing on why people aren't buying can be more revealing for finding blue oceans than just asking current customers what they want more of.
It often reveals the fundamental compromises and limitations that the industry and its current customers have just come to accept as normal. Those points of friction are prime territory for value innovation.
Wow. This whole deep dive, it's just a powerful shift in perspective, isn't it? That market structure, the industry rules, they're not fixed reality you're stuck with.
Not at all. They can be shaped, reconstructed through systematic thinking, using these tools, focusing on value innovation, especially for non-customers. Companies really can create new demand, new market space.
It's about growing the pie, not just fighting harder for your existing slice. Non-destructive creation, as the source calls it.
Exactly. It's not a zero-sum game.
So the big takeaway for you, listening right now,
think about your own industry, your own work. What are the rules everyone just accepts? What assumptions are so baked in nobody questions them anymore?
where do the market boundaries feel totally rigid, even though maybe they're just lines drawn in managers' minds?
And could you challenge those? Could you systematically look across those alternatives, those strategic groups, the buyer chain, the complementary stuff, the functional emotional appeals, or look across time?
What could you eliminate or reduce that everyone else thinks is essential? And what new value could you raise or create?
Especially think about the non-customers. Who isn't engaging with your industry or your offering today, and why not? What's stopping them?
Understanding their pain points, their reasons for staying away, that might just be the key to unlocking your own blue ocean.
Definitely something to think about. A whole different way to approach strategy, starting right from where you are.
Thank you for listening. If you found value in this audio, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful content on motivation, habits, and wealth building. New audiobooks and summaries are uploaded every week, so stay tuned and keep growing. This is Neural Wealth, where your mindset meets your future. Until next time, stay focused, stay hungry, and stay inspired.